of the 1,429,981 people who made abortion legal in Ireland. So, for context, Ireland's situation is unique in the sense that we love a good referendum. We vote on absolutely everything. The only people who vote more than us are the Swiss. So because of a constitutional amendment in 1983 that placed the right to life of a fetus as equal to or greater than the right to life of a person carrying it, we were never going to be able to use the courts or politicians or campaigns to secure abortion in Ireland. We were always going to have to go door to door and ask every single person with a polling card what they thought, and it was going to be majority rules from the word go. One of the leaders of the anti-abortion movement in Ireland said, well, the disabled are going to be aborted en masse. And we were like, geez, someone should call our moms. And that was the idea of disability in the context of the campaign and what we got from the very first go from the anti-abortion movement. There was posters placed all over the country saying like, don't repeal me, with pictures of like gorgeous children with Down syndrome being like, don't repeal me, or and there was a real attempt by the anti-abortion campaign to co-opt and to make disability their issue, which we weren't happy about at all. And we were also a little bit dissatisfied that the response from the mainstream abortion rights movement was necessarily silence. So what effectively happened was a large group, well, not a large group, at the start a very small group of disabled women got together and were like, okay, we're done with this. We were recognizing that disabled women faced huge healthcare inequalities in terms of reproductive justice, and also that, shockingly, disabled women have sex and need abortions. So we basically established using online campaigning to be like, right, we don't have the media buy-in power, we don't have the connections, but we do have a shared social space that everyone can access in Twitter, that we can possibly redefine this debate. So we started using the hashtag reproductive rights or disability rights, which I've since been told is far too long for a hashtag. And what we did was we set together to redefine this debate and to say, actually, no, this is where we fit into it. Because we recognized a few core things. One, that the disability rights movement and the reproductive rights movement are rooted in core principles. There is a lot of common values that are universal to both. When we talk about autonomy, we talk about the right to make your own decisions in terms of your pregnancy and in terms of abortion, but we also talk about that in terms of the UN Convention on Disability and legal capacity, and the right to make your own decisions in all medical care and in terms of where you live in disability. Like, they are two incredibly powerful core values. We also talked about reproductive justice. And when we talk about reproductive justice in a disability sense, we are referencing those broader ideas and values that are, again, so core to both movements. What's particularly special about what's happened since, though, is that we've grown from those conversations where we wanted to redefine what the debate was on disability and reproductive justice as part of this large campaign, as part of the history in Ireland, to a disability rights movement in and of itself. We moved from reproductive rights or disability rights and a hashtag 15 months ago to a disability rights movement. There isn't an issue that affects women that doesn't affect disabled women. Where there was originally silence around disability and abortion, when it came to the actual legislation post-referendum, post this incredible victory, disabled women were present in a way that they hadn't been during the campaign, partly because of the nature of referendums, but also because we were there. We were referenced in our national parliament in terms of the legislation going forward. There were submissions from disability rights organisations, not just our own, but older established disability organisations who said this is how this impacts disabled women. I'm also really struck by the fact that all over the world, women seem to have to cross borders in order to be able to access abortion safely, so we should cross borders in our advocacy. With regards to cross-movement building, there are conflicts between the medical industry or the medical field and the human rights field. There's also conflicts within the human rights field. There are people that I just actively oppose now that I worked with really closely on the campaign. I'm never going to agree with some of the people I worked with in terms of sex work. I'm never going to agree with some of the doctors I worked with in terms of consent and pregnancy. But for 6 months, we were able to put a lot of that stuff aside and work towards it. I'm not sure if it was necessarily the best thing for every constituent, but it is what ultimately got us the referendum across the line in the end.